If you've looked for a place to live lately, you know the feeling. Dozens of people elbowing past each other in a hallway, all hoping to hand over a massive chunk of their paycheck for the exact same apartment. Through most of last year, the data offered a tiny glimmer of relief. Rental growth was steadily slowing down, eventually dropping below 1% a quarter. It looked like the peak of the squeeze had passed. That trend has broken. In the first 3 months of this year, national rents went as 2.1%, a pace that is more than double the previous quarter, marking a sharp acceleration right back into the red. Zoom out to the 5-year view and the toll is staggering. Since the pandemic began, rents have climbed by 43%. For the typical household, that adds around $202 a week to the rent bill. This diagram shows exactly how that increase impacts a household budget. The typical Australian household is now committing a record 33.1% of their gross income straight to rent. 5 years ago, that figure sat closer to 25%. The gap between a quarter of your income and a third of your income is the difference between a functional budget and one with almost nothing left over once the roof is paid for. Half of all renting households are operating at or beyond this level of strain right now. This 33.1% threshold has become the new mathematical baseline for the median Australian renter. The direct cause driving these numbers higher is a lack of available properties. This container illustrates the national vacancy rate, which currently sits at a critically low 1.6%. That is roughly half the long-term average. Because that empty space is so incredibly tight, overall rental listings are running roughly 18% below the 5-year norm. When supply drops this low, landlords don't need to actively raise prices. The sheer volume of applicants will automatically offer to match or beat each other just to secure a lease. The entire rental market is functioning as a pressure cooker, with the release valve completely sealed by scarcity. When people can't afford their current suburb, the logical response is to look for relief somewhere else, either by moving to a cheaper city or downsizing to a smaller place. Sydney remains the peak of this expense, with the median dwelling now costing over $800 a week to rent. As renters flee that extreme pricing, they flood into cities like Perth and Brisbane. That influx of displaced people has caused those local markets to spike by nearly 7% over the past year. The other escape route is shrinking your footprint. People try to save money by trading down from a standalone house into a smaller unit or apartment. This chart tracks the 5-year growth of both property types. Because everyone is rushing toward the smaller option, unit rents have surged by 47% over the past 5 years, outpacing house rent growth at 39%. The spaces that are supposed to be affordable entry points are exactly where the competition is deadliest. The bottom of the market is enduring the most extreme compression. The analysts who compiled this data are blunt about the outlook. There is nothing in these figures to suggest the pressure is about to ease. The market has entered a structural shortage, a state where the imbalance between supply and demand has become a permanent feature rather than a passing phase. In practical terms, that means population inflows and housing demand remain high, while the physical supply of new homes is failing to keep pace. Until new supply actually exists on the ground, the fierce competition at every open house will continue to set the price. With vacancy rates stuck at record lows and listings failing to rebound, the upward pressure on prices remains the path of least resistance for the coming quarter. While the data shows the scale of the current squeeze, it offers no timeline for its conclusion. It leaves only the question of whether losing a third of your income is the new stable baseline, or just another milestone on the way up.